He thought beauty would make him happy. He thought a prettier smile, a louder laugh, a more polished life would finally quiet the storm inside his chest. So he left the woman who loved him, not because she failed him, but because she felt too familiar. He wanted something new, something dazzling. But sometimes the search for something more becomes the very thing that destroys what was already enough. Stay with me, because this is not just his story. It's the story of anyone who has ever mistaken excitement for love and discovered the truth far too late. Maybe you felt it too, that quiet restlessness that creeps in when everything seems fine. You start questioning the comfort you once prayed for. You look at the person beside you and wonder if love is supposed to feel different, louder, faster, brighter. That's where he was. And if he had known that his craving for more would cost him peace, maybe he would have chosen to stay. But he didn't. And life, in its quiet, merciless way, became his teacher. Before we dive deeper, if stories like this make you feel something, that ache in your chest, that reflection you can't name, subscribe to Broken Becomes Light. Because here, we don't run from the pain, we learn from it. Now, let's begin. He had met her 5 years ago. She was simple, not in the way people use the word to diminish, but in the way peace is simple. She laughed softly, spoke kindly, and carried calmness like a quiet ocean tide. He used to call her his peace. She never demanded attention, never played games, never made him chase validation. She just was, and that stillness, once sacred, had now started to feel suffocating. He couldn't explain it. The relationship hadn't broken. It had simply dulled. Or maybe he had dulled and didn't want to face it. When he met the other woman, it wasn't supposed to mean anything. She was dazzling, the kind of person who enters a room and makes everyone look. Everything about her felt like movement, fast, witty, alive. She laughed too loudly, said what she wanted, and looked at him like he was the only one there. He hadn't realized yet that sometimes attention feels like love when you're starving for validation. They started talking, harmlessly at first, a message here, a joke there, but you know how it goes. Soon, just talking became just coffee, and just coffee became a secret he defended. He told himself he wasn't cheating. He was just exploring, testing whether he still had it, testing whether his heart could still race like it did when he was younger, before routine wrapped around him like an old coat. But love doesn't always leave in one explosion. Sometimes it fades in whispers, in the space between two people who stop meeting each other's eyes at breakfast. That night he came home late. She was sitting at the table, a mug of tea cooling beside her. The lights were low. She smiled when she saw him, that same gentle, familiar smile, and asked, "Long day?" He hesitated. He wanted to lie, but the truth was already hanging heavy in the air. He said quietly, "I don't think I'm happy anymore." She blinked once, the way people do when they're trying not to cry. "Is it me?" He could have said no. He could have said he was confused, tired, lost, but instead, he said the kind of words you can't take back. "I think I need something different." She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She only nodded, as if she'd been preparing for this conversation in her heart long before it reached her ears. "Then go," she said softly. "If that's what you need, go. I won't hold you back." Her voice didn't break, not once, but his did. He packed a bag, not because he wanted to leave, but because staying meant confronting what he had done, and so he left, chasing the illusion of something more beautiful. As he drove away, he didn't see her sitting in the dark afterward, tracing the rim of her cold teacup with shaking hands. He didn't hear the way she whispered to the empty room, "I hope she's worth everything you'll lose." He didn't see her wipe her tears, straighten her back, and decide, quietly, painfully, to start over without him. It's strange how quickly we can destroy what we prayed for. One moment, you're grateful for love. The next, you're convincing yourself you've outgrown it. He thought leaving would make him feel alive again. Instead, he had no idea he'd just stepped into a different kind of emptiness. The kind that hides behind beauty and applause. And that's where his real story begins. At first, everything felt like victory. He had stepped into a new life, vibrant, loud, dripping in color and motion. The woman he'd left her for was breathtaking, in the way lightning is beautiful before it strikes. She made him feel wanted, admired, even envied. They went to crowded bars, rooftop dinners, took photos that looked like happiness. She dressed him in confidence again, laughed at his jokes, told him he was different. He believed her. Because it's easy to believe someone who tells you what you've always wanted to hear. He told himself, this is what love is supposed to be. Wild, spontaneous, passionate. But even passion, when it burns too fast, becomes smoke before warmth. Nights turned into mornings he didn't remember. They argued, then laughed, then argued again. Her words could kiss and cut in the same breath. One minute she adored him. The next she accused him of not trying hard enough. He started missing the silence he used to complain about. He missed coming home to peace instead of performing for attention. But pride kept him pretending, because to admit regret would mean admitting he'd been wrong. So he smiled for photos, laughed at jokes that weren't funny, and told everyone he was fine. But inside, a slow ache was growing. It's the ache that comes when your soul realizes it's surrounded by noise, but starving for meaning. One afternoon, he came home early. Rain dripping from his coat, exhaustion heavy on his face. She was sitting on the couch, phone glowing in her hands, her laughter echoing through the room. "Who are you talking to?" he asked lightly. "Just a friend," she said without looking up. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes, because he recognized that tone. The same tone he once used when he said, "It's just coffee." That night, she went out without him, said she needed space. He sat on the edge of the bed they once shared, staring at her lipstick-stained glass on the nightstand, and realized how familiar this loneliness felt. He picked up his phone, scrolled to her name, the woman he left. Her contact photo still there, smiling, soft, sunlit. He hovered over the message box, typed, "How are you?" then deleted it, because what could he say? "I left you for someone more beautiful, but she can't even look at me the way you did. I wanted excitement, but I miss your silence?" No. Some truths are too heavy to send through a screen. Weeks turned into months. The arguments became colder, crueler. He stopped recognizing himself. The new woman, once dazzling, now felt like a mirror reflecting his worst decisions. He'd traded peace for pride, and pride was expensive. One night, after another argument that ended with slammed doors and tears that weren't his, he went for a walk in the rain. The streets were empty, the city lights blurred through water and guilt, and for the first time, he whispered to himself, "Maybe I made a mistake." The words felt like confession, and confession, even whispered to the dark, is the first step toward awakening. He thought about her, the woman he left. The way she'd wait up for him, even when she knew he wouldn't come home early. The way she'd listen to his silence as if it were a language. The way she believed in him when he didn't. He remembered her hands, not soft because of luxury, but gentle because of kindness. He remembered how she looked at him, not with admiration, but with understanding. And suddenly, the kind of beauty he'd chased began to feel shallow, like glitter fading under real light. He saw her again once, briefly. Across the street, in front of a bookstore they used to visit. She was laughing with someone, a man he didn't know. There was ease in her shoulders, joy in her eyes. For a second, the world went quiet. He watched as she tucked her hair behind her ear, smiled at something the man said, and realized he had never seen her so alive when she was with him. He wanted to call out, to say her name, to explain, to apologize. But what right does regret have to interrupt peace? So he stood there, soaked in rain and silence, watching the woman he once called his peace finally find her own. That night, he went home and deleted every photo of the beautiful woman. He didn't hate her. He just couldn't look at those memories anymore, without hearing the echo of what he'd lost. He opened his journal, one he hadn't written in for years, and wrote only 3 words: "She was enough." Then closed it, knowing the sentence carried more truth than any apology ever could. Time didn't punish him. It simply revealed him. Months passed, and with them, the illusion faded completely. The woman he'd left her for, the more beautiful one, began to show him mirrors he'd been avoiding his whole life. Every argument, every manipulative smile, every cold silence wasn't new. It was him, reflected back. He realized he had never been betrayed by her. He had been betrayed by his own blindness. He wasn't looking for love when he left. He was running from accountability, because loving someone who truly sees you, that's terrifying. And she, the woman he left, had seen him fully. His fears, his weaknesses, his insecurities. The new one only saw the mask. And masks can only be loved for so long before they slip. He started losing things. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, like sand through open hands. His friends drifted. His work suffered. His laughter sounded forced, even to himself. He'd scroll through photos of his old life, dinners at home, her hand resting on his arm, the glow of simplicity, and wonder how he ever mistook peace for boredom. One night, he went back to their old apartment building. He stood outside, looking at the balcony that once held their plants, their morning coffees, their quiet arguments that always ended in forgiveness. He didn't go up. He didn't knock. He just stood there, a ghost outside the home he once called ours. A warm light flickered from the window. For a moment, he could almost see her silhouette, reading maybe, or just existing peacefully. And he realized that she no longer belonged to his story. She had moved on. She had healed. He sat in his car afterward, unable to start the engine. He whispered to himself, "Why did I have to lose her to understand her?" But life doesn't answer those kinds of questions. It just watches you learn. He closed his eyes and saw the night he left, her face, her voice, the last words she said. "I hope one day you find what you're looking for." And it hit him. He had found it. Not in another woman, not in success, not in beauty, but in the painful mirror of consequence. She had wished him clarity, and life delivered it piece by piece until he finally saw himself clearly enough to break. Weeks later, he ran into a mutual friend. They spoke briefly, polite smiles, shallow conversation, until her name came up. "She's doing great," the friend said. "Started volunteering, painting again, even dating someone. She seems happy." He nodded. "Good," he said softly. "She deserves that." But his throat tightened around the truth. He didn't miss being loved by her. He missed deserving to be. That night, he walked alone through the city. No phone, no music, just the echo of his own steps. He passed a shop window and caught his reflection. The same face, but heavier somehow. Older, not in age, but in understanding. He whispered to his reflection, "You did this. You broke her. You broke yourself." And for the first time, he didn't try to justify it. He didn't blame boredom or temptation or youth. He simply accepted that he had been blind, and that blindness had cost him something irreplaceable. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from remembering the one person who saw you completely, and realizing you'll never have that again. He had chased beauty, but beauty without peace becomes noise. He had chased passion, but passion without loyalty becomes pain. And he had left love, real, steady, unconditional love, because he didn't yet know how to love himself. And that was the truth life taught him, not with punishment, but with absence. He still thinks of her sometimes, not every day, but in quiet moments. When a song plays that she once hummed in the kitchen, when he walks past a flower shop and smells lavender, her favorite, when he sees couples laughing softly in the glow of streetlights. He smiles sometimes, because pain, when accepted, transforms into gratitude. And even though he can't undo what he did, he can live differently now, more aware, more honest, more careful with hearts that trust him. That's what it means to be human. We ruin, we learn, we rebuild. And maybe that's what she meant that night, when she said, "I hope you find what you're looking for." Maybe she didn't mean another woman. Maybe she meant himself. And maybe, after all this time, he finally did. Time is the gentlest teacher, and the most ruthless. It doesn't yell, it doesn't warn, it just keeps showing you what you chose, until you finally understand. He never hated the woman he left for. He didn't even hate himself anymore. He simply accepted that sometimes the things we chase are not meant to be kept, only meant to teach. And life had taught him this. You can love someone's beauty and still feel empty beside them. Because true beauty has nothing to do with the eyes. It's how peace feels when they walk into the room. It's how your heart slows down instead of speeding up. It's how you can sit in silence and still feel understood. She, the woman he left, had given him that kind of beauty. Not the kind people notice, but the kind souls remember. And he, blinded by his own hunger, had traded it for something temporary. But the universe has a way of balancing what we break. It took years, but he finally became the kind of man who could love the way she did. Patiently, quietly, without conditions. He often thought, if only I had learned this sooner. But maybe that's the point. Some lessons aren't meant to be learned beside the people who loved us. Some lessons only bloom in the garden of regret. He never reached out again. Not because he didn't want to, but because he respected the silence she built after him. He carried her memory like a folded letter he would never send, not out of guilt, but gratitude. Because the truth is, she had been the light all along, and he had been too broken to see it. Now, every time he looks at the sky at dusk, that blue turning to gold, he whispers a quiet thank you, not for what they had, but for what it taught him. We often mistake stimulation for love. We confuse attraction with connection, and we chase validation instead of healing. That's why so many lose people who were good to them, because peace feels unfamiliar when you've only known chaos. But when life takes something away, it doesn't always mean punishment. Sometimes it's mercy. Sometimes it's the universe saying, you weren't ready to hold what you asked for. And that's okay, because growth is never graceful. It's raw, it's messy, it's full of late realizations and quiet guilt. But every regret is still a seed of awareness. And from awareness, healing begins. If this story found you tonight, maybe it wasn't by accident. Maybe there's someone you've been thinking about, someone you left, or someone who left you. And maybe this was life's way of whispering, see, you're not alone. Because in the end, we've all been both, the one who left and the one who was left, the breaker and the broken, and if we're lucky, the healed. Before you go, I want to ask you something, and be honest, even if it hurts a little. Have you ever left someone who only wanted to love you and realized too late what they were worth? Or were you the one who got left behind, watching someone walk away believing they could do better, only for life to prove the truth? Tell me below, even a single word, because when you share, you remind someone out there that they're not the only one feeling this. And maybe that's how we all heal, together through the truth we finally dare to admit. Music swells one last time, hopeful, cinematic. This was Broken Becomes Light, where every scar is a story, and every story becomes a little less dark when shared.